Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's do the prayers before we start our class. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Swaha, Tat Savitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. अस्तो मा सद्गम्य तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गम्य मृत्युर्मा अमृतं गम्य ओम सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति शांति शांति. Third chapter, Vibhuti Yoga or Vibhuti Pad. Unless we are practicing what he has been telling us to do, these verses will not make any sense. We can read, we can talk about it, but we cannot experience it. So for this we need abhyas and vairagya both. See, that's why Rishi Patanjali, the chapter before this, he talked about that, hey, do some sadhana. Okay, so these are the higher level of experiences. Okay, so that's why I want to go through this verse again, where we ended our last week's class. So chapter 3, verse number 9. Vyutthan nirodha sanskarayorabhibhava pradurbhavau nirodhaksannachittanvayo nirodhaparinamah. Okay, all this that we experience in our sadhana actually. Vyutthan, coming out, it's like something is arising. Nirodha, stopping, constraining. Sanskaryo, of the two impressions. See, sanskar is impression, sanskaryo, of the two impressions. Abhibhav, suppression. Pradurbhavau, emergence. Nirodhakshan, moment of suppression. Chit means the mind, the deeper mind. Anvay, yoking, permeation. Nirodh, suppression. Parinam, transformation. Nirodh parinam is that state of transformation of mind. Where it is yoked by the moment of suppression, which appears and disappears between incoming and outgoing sanskars. So in this sutra, Rishi Patanjali is giving us the fundamental state of mental transformation, which happens when we do this abhyas. And abhyas also, when this abhyas reaches the samadhi. So when you attain samadhi, you must know that your consciousness has undergone a definite state of transformation. So every time you reach samadhi, there is some change in there. And that change takes place in the realm of consciousness. Parinam means change. Parinam. For example, yogurt is a parinam of milk. In samadhi, or even in the preliminary sadhana, the mind undergoes a transformation. And this happens in different degrees and at different points. The whole range of transformation is classified into these three. So in this sutra, Rishi Patanjali is describing the transformation in the form of suppression. But there are two other forms of transformation which are described in the next two sutras. That's why it's very important to understand this sutra before we move into the next two. In those two sutras, transformation in the form of tranquility and the transformation in the form of concentration. So, nirodhaparinamah, ekagrataparinamah, we got to remember that. So the mind undergoes the three changes after attaining samadhi. So samadhiparinamah, ekagrataparinamah, and nirodhaparinamah. Actually, samadhiparinamah comes first when we are practicing. Then ekagrataparinamah. And then comes nirodhaparinamah. So when you have started the practice of sanyam, you remember the sanyam term? Dharana, dhyan, and samadhi together, it's called sanyam. So when you have started the practice, the mind undergoes transformation in these three stages. Samadhi, ekagrat, and nirodha. That's why Rishi Patanjali, when he defined yoga for us, what did he say? Yoga shchitviti nirodha. Nirodha is a suppression of the object of meditation. This is a very interesting topic. When you practice sanyam, for example, and he has been telling us to do sanyam on Om as the basis, you try to be aware of it and nothing else. Om. All distractions are overcome at this stage. Even your guru or God or any other idea, just one. All else except Om is suppressed. That's nirodha. But at this point, it's called a samadhiparinamah. And from this samadhiparinamah, you attain the state of tranquility. And when you have finished that state, then Om becomes clear. There's a continuous flow of it in your mind. And if this continues for half an hour, every moment, Om will be in your awareness. In this process, one Om is followed by another, and there is continuity. It is like the continuity of the flame of an oil lamp. So in this state, the mind undergoes a transformation which is called ekagrataparinamah. And when you go ahead, suddenly another idea comes to you. That is not nirodha, that is called vyutthananirodhasanskarayorabhibhava. So some other idea just erupts. That is like a revival of the previous consciousness. Then there's a suppression of that. And again, Om emerges. That particular period of suppression is called Nirodha. And that is one parinam. Now, as students, we should know how to remove the pratyay completely. In Nirodhaparinam, the pratyay is of disturbing factors is suppressed. Then there comes a period when your mind undergoes the second state of transformation in Ekagrataparinam. Then after that, instead of concentrating on Om, you will have to concentrate on the intervening period and try to remove that Om from that mind. Let me tell you, it's very difficult to remove the pratyay from the mind. Because the moment you try to make your awareness objectless, Om will come again. It has to be removed again. It will come again. And that is practice. But the intervening period will go on increasing. The pratyay will ultimately disappear. Then there will be absolute stillness. The period of Nirodha or Nirodhaparinamah. So this is a very peculiar method of yoga which must be understood. It's almost like in the practice of this, you try to remove one thorn with another thorn. And when the thorn is removed, the other thorn is also thrown away. Yoga tries to bring about transformation in the awareness by introducing one particular pratyay or symbol and then discarding it. And if you don't know what pratyay is, pratyay means a single thought or a content of the mind or an object of the focus in meditation. So in this example, the pratyay is Om. So Nirodhaparinam is the dropping of the pratyay, which one might have cultivated for years. So vyutthan and nirodha are the two kinds of activities of consciousness. These two kinds of dynamic sanskars are the impressions of consciousness, which are responsible for the stage of suppression and manifestation. So these two states of suppression and expression, they come and go. With them, the pratyay also comes and goes. So even when there's a single pratyay coming into awareness, time and again, there is a Nirodhaparinam in between the expression of these two pratyas. Some people think that this is a laya avastha. But laya is different than Nirodha. Sometimes while practicing meditation, there is a momentary blankness in which everything disappears. That is a laya and not Nirodha. It is involuntary. Nirodha is a voluntary suppression. Yogi is fully aware of it. What am I doing? What is happening? So transformation in the form of voluntary suppression is the last transformation of mind. We can understand that from our physical body, how it has transformed from childhood to youth to old age, and ultimately it's going to die. That's a transformation of the physical body. The mind undergoes a similar transformation from dharana to samadhi through the three transformations or stages called samadhiparinamah, ekagraparinamah, and nirodhaparinamah. That's what Rishi Patanjali is telling us. Why this is important to us? Because later on in this chapter, he is going to talk about the vibhutis, the powers. If we don't understand, we won't be able to understand how yogis attain those vibhutis. In Samadhi Parinam, you try to establish the pratyaya and diminish other thoughts. In Ekagrat Parinam, you try to continue that pratyaya because there are no distractions now and mind is quiet. And in Nirodh Parinam, you try to diminish the pratyaya, which you have established earlier. Now you are trying to establish the complete silence. That's how you transcend the field of Sabij Samadhi and go into the Nirbij Samadhi. Because the pratyas we choose according to our sanskars. And this bij is a bij of the sanskar. So as long as we are situated in the Sabij Samadhi, sanskars are there, those seeds are there. So we got to learn this technique to get rid of all the sanskars. Only then we'll enter into the Nirbij Samadhi. And what happens after that? Why do we need to practice it? Rishi Patanjali says, tasya prashantavahita sanskarat. Tasya means of it. Prashant means peaceful. Vahita, flow. Sanskarat, by repeated impressions. So this is like a fruits of the Nirodh Parinam, he is telling us. The flow of Nirodh Parinam becomes tranquil by repeated impressions. So the final state of transformation of mind becomes tranquil and powerful by practicing again and again. And that state is not interrupted by any disturbance of the pratyaya. And this is a very crucial point. If this nirodh is practiced before ekagrat or before samadhi, you will enter into laya or darkness. So that's why the proper sequence is very important. So this particular state of suppression should never be tried by any aspirant before he has finalized ekagrat parinam. So just like a milk comes first, then yogurt, then butter. There's a sequence. From butter, you cannot have the milk or even the yogurt. So same way, samadhi parinam, ekagrat parinam, and nirodh parinam should follow each other. While you are practicing deep meditation, the impression breaks sometimes, and this breaking point is called a nirodha. This will only come when there is practically continuous awareness, when it becomes continuous, and then in between two impressions, suddenly there is a silence. That is called nirodha. Suddenly your consciousness emerges in the next plane of one-pointed concentration. Then there's a break again. There's no impression at all. That's why it's called Nirodha. You have to change the whole pattern. Once the pratyaya becomes continuous without any intervention, you have to wait for some time until there is a voluntary suppression. So then the pratyaya of the symbol, such as Om, becomes clearer. Then suddenly there's a break again. This is again a Nirodha. There's a continuity of impression, and suddenly after a few months of practice, you find a break. Afterwards, suddenly the impression appears. Again, by force, you should break it. It appears and automatically Om will appear again. The moment it appears, you should try to break it again. When you have come to a particular state where Nirodha increases and vyutthan decreases. So that means it's simple. That is a pratyaya. Then Samadhi comes. So yoga is called V-yoga. We try to bring about a transformation in the mind, and that transformation is brought about by 3 stages. Remember, it's not an imaginary circle, but it's an actual change in the molecular structure of the mind, actually. Even the brain changes. This particular transformation in these 3 stages is again subdivided into many stages, actually. Okay, so in the general, he's talking about these stages, but at our individual level, we might go through many different. Sarvarthataikagratayoh, kshayodayau, chittasya, samadhiparinamah. Sarvarthata, diverse state. Ekagratayoh, one-pointedness. Kshayodayau, disappearance and appearance. Chittasya, of the mind. Samadhi Parinamah, transformation. So this is a Samadhi Parinam. Samadhi Parinam is the disappearance and appearance of distraction and one-pointedness of the mind. So Samadhi Parinam is a state when concentration and distraction of the mind appear and disappear. This is simultaneous. The distraction disappears and one-pointedness appears. So it's a state of mind, of transformation of consciousness. This is a higher state, Samadhi Parinam. In this particular state, an impression, for example, that Om, which we were talking about, appears, then simultaneously distraction appears. Then you suppress the distraction, then Om appears. So the previous layer of sanskars tries to suppress concentration. But the latest layer of sanskars tries to suppress the distraction. So your effort to establish the one impression, Om, suppresses all other distractions, which are called vikshepa. Actually, this is exactly what happens in our daily practices. When you sit down, you are trying to practice ekagrata on a particular impression. Suddenly, a particular thought comes up, disturbs the impression. Then you bring the impression again to your mind and suppress the distraction. We are all used to it. But again, like an explosion, some other thought comes from below and throws off the impressions. So this particular state is called Samadhi. This is the first stage of transformation in the realm of consciousness. Then in the next verse, he talks about the ekagrataparinamah. Tataha punaha shant uditau tulye pratyau chittasya ekagrataparinamah. Tataha, then, punha, again, shant, that means subsided, shant. Uditau, manifested, tulye, equal, pratyau, the contents of the mind, chittasya, of the mind, ekagrat, one-pointedness, parinamah, transformation. Then again, when the objects which subside and appear are similar, it is called one-pointed transformation of the mind. So in ekagrat parinam, the same impression rises and subsides time and again. That's ekagrat. Let's go to our example of Om. It rises, then it subsides alternatively. The quality of the subsiding impressions and the rising impression must be the same. But the interval between these two is very short now. It's almost like when we see a film on the screen, we cannot know the different pictures separately because there's a continuity. It is the same in the case of ekagrat parinam. The rising and subsiding of the impression is so quick that it may escape our attention. We may feel a continuous flow of pratyay. And the difference between these two states is difficult to perceive. But it's not a single state. So the mind is steady in the state of concentration. And in that case, we do know the difference between the two states. Usually, our mind keeps on moving from object to object. And that's why it is said in the scriptures that the mind keeps on moving. It's a chanchal. It's vibrant. In Samadhi, the mind is completely suppressed. But in other stages, even if it is one-pointed, it keeps on moving. There is the movement of pratyay. One pratyay subsides and the same again arises. This process goes on for some time. This is known as ekagrat parinam of the mind. What is the application of these parinams? Like a samadhi parinam, ekagrat parinam, and nirodh parinam. What is the application? Attain bhut indriyeshu dharam lakshan avastha parinama vyakhyatah. Attain, by this, bhut, elements, indriyeshu, in the sense organs. Dharam, dharam is the property, quality. Lakshan is the characteristics. Avastha is the condition. Parinamaha, transformations. Vyakhyataha are explained. by this, the three parinams, namely nature, character, and condition in the elements and sense organs, are explained. We should understand the transformation or change in the elements and sense organs in the fashion of the transformations explained in all these verses we just covered today. As the mind undergoes the threefold changes or transformation due to sanyama in the form of samadhi, ekagrata, and nirodha, similarly, the elements and sense organs undergo three types of changes called dharma, lakshan, and avastha. With the growth of the body, certain changes take place. We become old. There are changes in the body as well as in our organs. And these are three types. This sutra means that when the mind undergoes a change or transformation, a similar change takes place in the sense perception and sense organs. By analyzing the concepts deeply, the mind undergoes changes, and corresponding to the transformation of the Chitta, there are transformations in the body, in the objects of perception. And that's what he's describing in this one. When he says dharam-parinam, the Chitta is transformed so far as its property is concerned. Dharam is concerned. Then lakshan parinam, the Chitta is transformed so far as its character is concerned. And avastha parinam, the Chitta is transformed so far as its condition, that means the avastha, is concerned. So the first transformation is in samadhi. When you are trying to eliminate the distractions of mind during the practice of sanyam, the Chitta undergoes a little change as far as its nature is concerned. Okay, so there's a lot happening in our personality when we are practicing yoga. In ekagrat, the Chitta will have another change in its structure or property, character, and condition. And then again, when the Chitta undergoes nirodhaparinamah, it will have a third transformation in the property, character, and condition. So in all three stages, it undergoes dharam, lakshan, and avastha parinam. So in samadhi also, in ekagrat also, in a nirodha also. So the transformation in the senses and in elements takes place exactly in the same manner. Because he is going to talk about the vibhutis, and vibhutis are related with those senses. So changes are happening in the senses and in the Chitta also. So that's why these vibhutis are not just fictitious, or it's not some blessings given to these yogis. These vibhutis are earned by the abhyas. There are 5 elements we are all familiar with: earth, water, fire, air, and space, which is called ether also sometimes. And 10 sense organs. 5 of them are cognitive, and the other 5 are motor organs. Generally, we call them Gyanendriya and Karamendriya. The cognitive organs have a connection with the corresponding bhut, the element. For example, The ear grasps sound, which is the quality of this space. The skin grasps touch, which is a quality of air. The senses do not work independently. The mind or the chitta must be connected with them. Otherwise, the senses will not convey their impressions. This is how intricate this system of ours is. When the chitta undergoes the three kinds of changes, the changes which we are talking about, dharam, lakshan, and avastha, the sense organs and the five elements are also influenced by these changes. The elements and the senses gradually undergo the changes called dharam, lakshan, and avastha in the course of practice of samadhi, ekagrat, and nirodha. I hope you can see the connection over here between these three, samadhi, ekagrat, and nirodha, and dharam, lakshan, and avastha, and our mind also, chitta also, and our senses also. Perception is the dharam of the five senses. Perception. And this dharam is modified with the transformation of the chitta. So what is the purpose of this sutra in this great scripture, where no extra word is written? So the purpose is that in the course of time, by sanyam, the yogi is able to perform many kinds of miracles. To us, they seem like miracles, but this is the outcome of the power over the senses, power over the mind, power over the intellect, power over the ego. Not only that, power over the prakriti itself. It is a kind of proof so that you may understand how by concentration, the dharam, lakshan, and avastha of the senses and the elements can be transformed. So remember, five elements, panchabhut, five gyan indriya, five karam indriya. This will be more clear when we talk about these vibhutis in this chapter also. In the next verse, he uses the word dharmi. Shant, udit, avya, padeshya, dharam, anupati, dharmi. Dharmi. Dharmi is a common substratum. So it's just like all these senses are there, the action organs are there, the bhuts are there. What is common? Common substratum. That is called dharmi. And we'll start our next week's class with verse number 14. But I want you to go through all this. It's very deep knowledge. But this knowledge becomes clear only when we practice also. Okay, abhyas is very important. Abhyas and vairagya. These are the only two things which we need to do. Abhyas and vairagya. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much.